On today's podcast, I got my good friend Lee Perreira. He's a full-time musician here in Phoenix, and he's got a lot of stories to share, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of tips for you guys out there who are looking to do the same thing. We'll see you on the inside. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Like I mentioned, today I got my good friend Lee Perreira, full-time musician here in Phoenix. I've known him for a couple years now, and as the first time I saw him randomly here in Phoenix, I think it was in Scottsdale, I became an instant fan. He's got a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share with you guys today because he is actively pursuing music and writing his own music as well as working as a musician around town. He keeps very busy. So, Lee, thank you for being on my podcast, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, man. I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate what you do. It's inspiring.
Thanks, man. So I wanted to ask you to come on this podcast today because a couple reasons. I wanted you to kind of share your story with the people who listen to my podcast because you're a true singer-songwriter to the definition, to the T. Like, it doesn't get any more real than what you're doing. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I feel about what you're doing.
No, I mean it's cool to hear from your peers what they think of maybe you as a person or you as a business or moves that you've made. I don't know how you feel. I mean, you put out that planner, you're doing the podcast, RBV. I mean, you've done a lot of stuff, and I mean, even with the marathon I ran in January, it was probably definitely within this last month that I was listening to some podcast or something, and they said something like, "Oh, it's not like you're running a marathon, you know?" And and I literally stopped and I was like, I ran a freaking marathon.
So what I want to do is I want to definitely get into that about how you ran a marathon earlier this year, and then went and got up on stage and then played a show. Definitely want to jump into that because that is crazy awesome, and I think that a lot of people can be inspired by that. But before we go into all that awesome stuff, why don't you give a little bit of a background about your background in music and what got you started and why you decided to do music, for a living?
I guess I always wanted to. I grew up with a single mom, and she was, 80s hair rock. So I was surrounded, and that was an era of guitarists. So, I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be in a band. I always knew I wanted to do that. And then, I set my path down that way. You meet people along the way, whether it was the guys in middle school, us playing, we're all playing Fender Squire Strats in the garage, But I just continued down that path. And then really the turning point, which is funny because it ties into some stuff that's going on with me right now, is that, about 10 years ago, I went to school for music. And I didn't go for school for music right out of high school. Some years had passed, and it made sense, and it changed my life.
So I didn't know that. You went to school for music. Where did you go?
So I'm 36 now. When I was 26, I went to Phoenix College for 2 years.
Ah, okay. Oh, that's interesting, man. And what did you get anything out of it? What did you get out of it?
Everything, man. Yeah. At the time, I had been in an original band and still was at that time, and put out some records and done some regional touring and done some cool stuff and thought I was cool,
Yeah.
And then when I went back to school to actually study my craft, not only was this 26-year-old rock and roll kid getting schooled by these 18-year-old jazz kids, I met professors who were professors and also professional musicians and learned, how to dress, how to act, how to not act, and how to, be diverse, enough to be busy all the time.
Right. So from there, out of going to school, what did you do next? What was your next step after that?
I guess when I entered school, I was not doing well. So I was it was when the economy crashed, and so I'd lost my cushy Monday through Friday job. I was unemployed for 9 months, and I ended up getting a job at a call center that talked people through getting student grants. I qualified myself because I had been unemployed for 9 months.
Uh-huh.
So then I went to school, and when I got to school, then I didn't have a job, so I was living off of grants and loans, and I started teaching guitar lessons when I started going to school for music. And then at the end of 2 years, I guess in the beginning of the first semester of 2 years, I took on my first student, and I took on my first ever like cover gig. And then
Oh,
over the
okay.
course of those 2 years of me going down that path and me always having a hustle and a grind to my who I am.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of those 2 years, I had over 20 students and was gigging 3 to 4 times a week and pulling my hair out trying to do finals.
Wow. So you kind of started with lessons, kind of supplemented the music part. It was like lessons and you were gigging.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was in school on student loans, on student grants,
Mm-hmm.
had like one student I taught in one Thursday night gig, and was just trying to, not get my car impounded, or not impounded, but like repossessed.
Yeah. 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 Yep.
I hear the tow truck, Mike, and I literally peek out the window like, oh no. I'm like, come on, they say my student grants are coming next month.
You're like, not today, not today.
Dude, it was stressful, man, but I'm happy for my experience.
So do you think that your decision to do music full time became a conscious decision over time, or was it like a goal that you had, or was it something that became apparent to you that, wow, I can actually do this full time between the teaching and the gigging? Like, did it kind of reveal itself to you, or was it something you were like, I'm gonna do this and this is what I'm gonna do?
Uh, with everything that I am, it was developed over time. I was shoot, man, I was 17 telling 25-year-old dudes, they need to show up for rehearsal on time, and I was ready to be a part of the next Zeppelin.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I never knew at the time. I thought it was like make it big or work at the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know. It kind of came to me, and I guess the most important thing to me, and that's happened in my life, is I say yes. So like when I got asked, hey man, a friend of a friend heard of me. They're like, I got a little bistro that I'm running. We're looking for music on Thursday nights. Can you fill 3 hours of covers?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Now could I? No, no, I definitely not. I was just very friendly. I showed up on time, and I played long intros.
That's a good tip. Learn the long intro.
Dude, I mean, there's no rules. You know what I mean? So I mean, as you learn playing with me, I don't play songs the way the record go. I mean, I use it as a rough guideline, but I let it flow where it needs to. And sometimes if you only got 22 songs and you're trying to fill 3 hours, you might need to play a little longer of an intro.
Yeah, man. I totally understand that. And maybe like stretch that guitar solo out a little bit longer and the breakdown a little bit longer. I like the fact that you mentioned you said yes first and then you figure it out after that.
100%. And I'm learning that lesson over and over and over again, especially with my quest to connect to universal knowledge and universal power and stuff like that. That sounds weird, but it's so true. Like I'm trying to say yes, not only to the things that come to me, but also to the things that I want that I don't know how to get to yet. Like it's okay for me to say yes, man. I'm gonna be on Ellen. How am I gonna get on Ellen? I don't know yet, but I know I'm gonna make a decision to get on her show.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I think a lot of artists get hung up on, they don't want to say yes to things because, you know what I mean, they're whether it's too afraid to jump into something that they may not feel they're ready for.
Yeah.
So they don't say yes first, and then you can lose out on a lot of opportunities playing it too safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that you find that in music. I mean, just last night we were hanging out at the Womack, and our good buddy Tall Paul was hanging, and I threw a medley at him that he had never played before. You know what I mean? But it's just like, hey, this is what it is. This is what you got. And when you are forced to do something, you do it. I mean, like, and I'm not the best time management. I can procrastinate sometimes, but I tend to thrive on that pressure of having to get something done. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I've noticed about you, and just to give my audiences an kind of an update, that I have played with Lee many times. I've sat in on gigs with him, and we've done a lot of videos together and stuff. So I really am very familiar with the way he works, and that's one of the things that I think is very interesting to me, is because we all procrastinate. Everybody procrastinates and stuff, but you actually really get a lot of things done. I mean, you definitely put in the work to not just get gigs, but networking, and connecting with other musicians and building things around what you want to do. And that's a really good lesson to teach other musicians who may not be at that point yet.
You have to. It's so funny, like when cliches become real to your life, because you have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to go outside your box. You just being real personal and honest, like, I hate talking on the mic. I don't like talking to the crowd. Like, my passion is in playing the song, singing the song, playing the guitar solo, playing off of and vibing with the other musicians. But I don't like talking to the crowd. I don't like schmoozing people. I don't like going to conferences and shaking people's hands. And that's not what I enjoy, and it makes me feel uncomfortable, and I have to tell myself, like, to do those things, and it's those things that bring me the opportunities that I'm experiencing today.
Yeah, that man, I can't agree more with you on that. I'm kind of like you, but like, my default mode is to be introverted, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, like, doing podcasts and stuff like that don't come naturally to me. But like you said, you got to get yourself out of your comfort zone if you want change and you want to see the things happen for yourself that you want to have happen. It's like, it's not going to happen for you if you don't make these things happen for yourself. And if that means getting out of your comfort zone, then that's what you got to do, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know whether or not it's on topic or not, but visualizing has been a very important role. Very recently, trying to make it more of a regular basis. And I think the most powerful thing that I've heard or read recently is to assume the feeling that you would have if you've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. Like, so that, like, what, and I do that at the Womack. I do that at performances. I do that throughout the day. Just remind myself and say, how would I feel and it makes me uncomfortable to even say it, but how would I feel if I was rich and famous right now? How would I feel if I wasn't worried about the fact that my credit card bill is late right now, or whatever the case? Like, how would I really feel with 20,000 people? Holy crap! Like, rushes of energy, goosebumps, like happiness, smiling, like these feelings come rushing over me. And guess what? I'm more present at that moment, whether I'm with my fiance or whether I'm performing a gig. I'm giving myself more to the moment, and it's the most powerful thing that I've experienced, and I believe that the magical things are on their way.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, because it's easy to get caught up in the grind of doing things, and having the tool to remind yourself, to kind of kick yourself in the ass and be like, wow, this is what I want to do, and not to get, I guess, pushed down with the weight of, I got another gig, and like, if you're not feeling it, and just to remind yourself of your ambitions, that's what you want to do.
And that's not to say, that I don't struggle or that I don't spend the majority of my time not in that connected state, but that is the direction that I wish to be in, and that's where I want to live my life. If for nothing else, then I am genuinely happier, Right. And what's it hurting? It's not hurting anything,
And at the end of the day, you being happy is really what matters the most, because, I mean, whether you could be playing in front of 20,000 people, or you could be playing in front of 20 people, but if it makes you happy in both situations, then that's awesome. Like you said, It's not hurting anybody. It's making you feel better about what you're doing. So that's some great advice there, man. So let me ask you this. So you do, like I was saying to the audience, you play all the time. You probably play 5-6 times a week, sometimes double gigs during the day, double gigs during one day. What what do you feel about doing, hired cover gigs as opposed to doing like an original gig? Because you do both. So
Yeah.
what are the pros and cons that you see of both sides of the coin, so to speak?
Um, I see no cons to
Mm-hmm.
either.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I'm continually trying to find a balance that feels right to me. Obviously, I'd love to do no cover gigs and only original gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've come to have a love for covering music as well. Um, but I don't know, man. I'm really grateful for the opportunity I have to play music for a living. I do, generally do over 300 events or gigs a year.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I think more than anything is that, I'm constantly honing in on my craft. So, last night I got to play with Miguel Melgoza and
Mm-hmm.
Tall Paul, and tonight I get to play with Lamar Gaines, one of the most respected keys players in the state of Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and Smurf on drums, another killer. So it's like I'm blessed. So it's almost like the dream. Obviously, is original music, but it's through these cover paid gigs that I've got to meet this plethora of amazing people and musicians, and these people are part of my journey. I remember when we were just talking about going outside your comfort zone. Years ago on Tuesday night at Cashmere, that was the spot to hang out, and it was more of like an R&B jazz kind of vibe, and I'm more of like a bluesy rock type of guy. And if you know music, R&B and jazz are a little bit more heady than blues and rock. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like the top cat there. I wasn't even in the top 10 there. You know what I mean? But I went there and I sat in on these jam sessions and I felt uncomfortable. You're stressed, sweating, and you're playing somebody else's instrument that doesn't feel comfortable on a microphone that's not EQ'd the way that you prefer, and you're trying to show your peers that you can play too. It's an uncomfortable thing, but
Uh-huh.
you do that and you grow so much for yourself, but you also meet so many people that become a part of your journey and help push you to things that you didn't know. There are parts of songs that I sing differently because I played them with you and Paul. So
Right, right, right. And you kind of like you can play the same song, the exact same song, but if you're playing it with different people, that song takes on two different personalities.
oh yeah, dude, we're the three of us are like a sonic boom, man. Like the first time that the three of us played Running from the Rose, it had been so long since I had played in like a real rock and roll band. I felt like just saying like, "Oh damn, come on!"
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, and that actually transitions me into my next question, which is, since you are a solo performer, but you also do the full band situation, what are your thoughts on those two I guess setups where gigs that you're playing it's just you or maybe another, and then you also do the full live band gig? What I guess I could say with that too. What are the pros and cons between those two scenarios?
um, for me personally speaking, diversity is the key to sanity for me.
Mm,
So if I only did full band gigs, I would probably burn out on it, especially for as much as I gig. Like if I only did one aspect, if I only did solo gigs, I'd get tired of hearing myself. But I'm super blessed and grateful that also through hard work and making connections, I have enough of those connections to do both. And I really enjoy doing a duo with another singer songwriter. And tonight I'm playing with the drummer and a guy who plays keys. And
mm-hmm.
next week I think I'm doing a full band hit where I'm playing electric. And so it's um, whether it's the diversity and the style of which I'm playing, as far as like the actual setup of the band, as well as like I cover Drake and I cover Kenny Chesney and I cover Stevie Wonder and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you would have told me that 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh man, that's crazy. You know, I bet that sounds stupid, you know,
Right,
like,
right, right, right.
but now, like, I have a different intimate understanding. Like, all these songs sound like Lee Perreira, you know, it doesn't sound like Drake, really. It just
Hmm.
happens to be his melody, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you get that signature sound, and whether you're playing your original songs or if you're doing a cover song, it's still you, right? You're still
Yeah.
lacing it with you.
I'm not, I, as far as I know, I'm not one of the artists that have the ability to emulate another artist.
Hmm.
It's gonna authentically sound like my voice, and it's just what I am, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so let's walk through like a normal work week for you, or workflow, I should say. For say like there's someone out there who is looking to build up their schedule and build up their gigs and network more. What's like a weekly workflow for you as far as gigging, as far as booking gigs, as far as doing press and social media and things to further your career? Like, what are your priorities throughout the week to get a lot of that stuff done?
Um, I'm still fine tuning that. I feel like I could be way better. I'm pretty um, scattered. The only thing that really benefits me is that uh, I don't even know. I'm thorough, so like
Mm.
I know what needs attention if I don't have the attention to give it yet. So I always circle back. I always email people thank yous. I always, you know, I'm always following up. I always feel like I want to be the last person to say something, you know, like that, even if it's just like a thanks for getting back to me, have a great week, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like I want, you know, so many people, especially me and my fiance run a booking company, and you know, would never name any names, but so many people in any industry really have just lost the art of real communication. It's you know, no capitalization. It's like texting in your email. It's, you
Mm-hmm.
know, don't lose uh, the fact that thank yous and a smile and a handshake and showing somebody appreciation and say, hey, you know, how's your day going? Thank you so much for contacting me about you know, you wanting my January availability. Here you go. Here are the dates. Make it look nice. Like, spend a little time to show people that you appreciate the fact that they're reaching out to you, if that's how you get it. Besides that, um, just identifying and targeting exactly what it is that you are trying to do, and then going and doing it. And whether or not you run into a dead end or not, or you say, you know, oh, like, for me, I want to contact Ellen. Cool. Well, I'm going to keep contacting her. I'm going to keep Googling how to contact her. I'm going to
Mm.
keep gathering all the information I can about her in one note on my phone, that I have all this stuff, and, you know, persistently reach out until, you know, I see a result, or until I find another avenue to try to get a result.
Yeah. Pers- Consistency and, like you said, persistence, I think, is probably the most important uh, key things to have when you're trying to build whatever it is, whether it's your music career, a business. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think giving up is the worst thing you can do. You know, it's just a killer of motivation. So persistence is a great thing to bring up there.
When we you know, I don't know if this is your next transition or not, but when we mentioned the marathon before,
Mm-hmm.
when I had the idea, um, you know, it was an idea. I had no idea, you know, what it was going to look like, when it was going to be. Then I thought about the rock and roll marathon that happens every January, worked on my timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, let's just be honest right now. Let's see what happens. So, you know, I have my own publishing company, so I created an email address for that publishing company, and had a, in quotations, representative from said publishing company re- reach out to the booking agency that booked for the marathon, and I let them know about this great artist named Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I got no response, and sent a couple more emails, and on the third email, I got a response, and it said, you know, thank you so much for your interest. Right now, we're not there yet. We won't be booking that for a couple months. We'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, got a response. So then I reached out and said, hey, I know my publishing company's reached out.
Oh.
Uh, And this is absolutely something that I'm passionate about, and that I want, help me accomplish a goal.
Uh-huh.
And then I actually didn't get a response, and so then I was like, I'm gonna go down. They had a local office, and I went down unannounced. I knocked on the door. I walked in. People looked a little caught off guard.
Wow.
And I said, "Hey, my name's Lee Perreira," and they're like, "Oh, you know what? One of our representatives, Shelby, has got your emails, and we're actually going to be doing that here in the next week or two. We'll be in contact." And I was like, "Well, I just want to stop by and introduce myself. Again, reiterate. I'd love to do this. It's just something I'm passionate about."
Right.
And then I didn't hear nothing, and so now this event, it was, I think, January 21st. I think is when I ran.
Mm-hmm.
And it is now the last week of November, so we're like 7 weeks out, and I'm still not confirmed. And yet I've already put it out in the universe and to like people I know that like I'm doing it. Like it hadn't even, I ain't signed nothing, but I'm like telling people I'm doing it. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm doing it. And
saying yes, right.
And so then long story short, it was my birthday, November 30th, and I turned my fiance Serenity, and I was like, "Hey, I know we're gonna go run around, do stuff today. I want to go to that office again today."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I want to go down there, and I'm gonna pull the birthday card on them." And
that's awesome, man.
So I went down there, and they have it's like these little houses in Scottsdale that are the offices. So I went into one office, and they're like, "Oh, Shelby's in the other office, but she's in a meeting." She comes out and she says, "Hey, I was actually gonna reach out to you today. I love your stuff. We would love to have you. Would love to see you." And I was just like, "Oh man, thank you so much." I'm so happy you said that, because today is my birthday. And I was like, "So I'll take that as a birthday present instead of me guilt tripping you to not tell me no on my birthday."
Oh, man. If any of you guys are listening out there, this story that Lee is talking about is the best example in being persistent, don't give up, and keep grinding on what it is that you want to do. And just to give you guys a little more information, this is basically a situation where you ran one of the biggest marathons here in Phoenix for sure.
Over
we have every year.
Over 20,000 people run every year.
Yeah. And you ran that marathon, and then you played a gig for the runners and everybody else after the marathon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy. And then the fact that you went through all those things to get that gig and to say, "Hey, I'm running, and I want, I'm going to play this gig too." I mean, how many people would have given up after the first email? You know what I mean? Like you send one email, you send another one, you walk down there, introduce yourself. I mean, these are all the things that I hope the listeners of this podcast pick up on and go, wow, don't give up with just one or two emails. Go do it.
And the other thing is too, is if they said no, that was still not the end. Not necessarily, like maybe I would have still tried with them, or maybe I would have moved on to another marathon, but it definitely wouldn't have ended. You know what I mean? Like I was committed to until I got a yes somewhere, until I got to create what it was that I was trying to create.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now you're in the rolodex, man. You're in there. You know what I mean? You're on the radar there. So all that work pays off for obviously that event that you did, and you're on their radar now too. I mean, you know what I mean? You're still out there in their mind. So if anything else comes up, you could be considered for that. No,
and again, being polite, being persistent, being professional, just very simply dress for the gig you want, not the gig you got. If you're constantly going above and beyond, then you're going to constantly get to that next level. I can only control what I can control. I would love to grab Sony Records or grab whoever and shake them and be like, freaking give me $1 million, sign me, let's freaking do this,
Yeah.
But that doesn't, the long-term goal doesn't persuade me from the daily work. Like I'm just here to do what I need to do today, believe in what I believe in today.
Mm-hmm.
And if tomorrow I have to change directions, if something didn't work or something changed, then that's totally okay. You know what I mean? And I don't need to worry about any sort of success or failure. I just need to worry about what I can control today.
Yeah. And you brought up the fact about being professional and being polite. How important is it to be how important is professionalism in what you do day in and day out working with people?
It's everything, you know. In all industries, uh, people change. You know, new businesses come up, new companies come up, people start their own. You know, and
Hmm.
so your name amongst the people that you work with. You know, if you no matter what it is, maybe it's songwriting, maybe it's studio work, maybe it's a gig, maybe it's a wedding, who knows, maybe it's I used to climb palm trees with my dad, you know, like if you make sure stuff looks good, stuff sounds good, you know, you greet the guests, you smile, I mean, like, and all these things are like daily minute by minute commitments, you know what I mean, like you have to bring awareness to your daily life and what your purpose is. You know, I
Hmm.
think the most important when I have the best gig that I can have, there's two things going on. Number one is I'm extremely grateful that I'm there, no matter where it is, and I'm grateful to bring a magical, wonderful thing called music to
Mm.
people's lives, and so I'm sharing that with these people. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful to try to make their experience better. And then the other thing I do is I visualize, and I visualize, you know, I'm doing something that I know that I'm capable of. You know, like who would have thought? You know,
Hmm.
I'd be jamming with Buddy Guy. I think the cool thing about the Buddy Guy story that doesn't get talked about and that you know isn't shown on a video is
Hmm.
after I freaking sat in with them in that video clip and jammed with him. He still had 30 minutes of his set, and his band invited me to stay. So I played, you know, 30 minutes of Buddy Guy's 90-minute set as part of his backing band. Like that's almost cooler than him featuring me. That's a sign
Yeah.
of respect from the other musicians, you know?
Yeah, yeah, just to give a little bit of backstory, it was like 2 years ago, we had a chance to open for Buddy Guy, the legendary blues artist Buddy Guy, at here in Phoenix, and Lee was the opener. I was very fortunate to be asked to play drums with you, so thanks, man. And and after we were done, Buddy Guy played his set, and they invited Lee up to play with him. If you go to YouTube and you look up Lee Perreira, Buddy Guy, Marky, or Phoenix, you can see the video, and there's footage of you up there, and it's awesome. And I think it's cool that the band was like, yeah, man, just hang out, like stay up here, you know. You're right. That's a big compliment.
And so I just visualize, you know, what, you know, I visualize that happening before it happened. You know, like
Mm.
leading
Mm-hmm.
up to it, it's like, oh man, I wanted to open up for Buddy Guy. I saw opportunity, and I started picturing it. And then once I confirmed the date, then I started picturing, you know, man, I'm gonna play with him. I'm gonna play with him. You know, what
Yeah.
am I gonna do? I'm gonna ask. You know, and you know that there's a story behind that, but you know, a few different doors had to be open, but it all started with me just asking, and
Yeah.
that's what it's about. You know what I mean? You always gotta ask, man. I was just talking to my friend Kyle Phelan earlier, and we were talking about music and stuff like that. It's like, dude, like I'm gonna keep swinging for the fences because even pitchers hit home runs, bro. So like one of these days, I'm gonna smack that son of a thing, and it's gonna go over the fence, and it's gonna be glorious.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Oh, God, there's so many things that other musicians can learn from your experiences. So I really appreciate you telling that. What as an independent artist for your original music, which is the bread and butter of what we like to do as artists, what are the kind of challenges that you found as being an independent artist in this day and age? What kind of challenges have you run into when trying to build your music career, your original music career?
Um, the consistent effort on all levels. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the booking agent. I'm the social media expert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the I'm the manager. I'm the, I'm the uh, sound guy. I'm a lot of things. So I think really prioritizing. I'm not something I could be way better at is my daily routine and stuff like that, and it's something that I'm bringing focus to and trying to put more into it. But just making sure that I prioritize what needs to be done. There's the whole top five thing. I put like the top 3 to 5 things that like I need to accomplish today, and throughout the day I just have to keep putting my eyes back on that list because I'm
Mm-hmm.
hungry and eat an apple, and then all the dogs need to go outside, and then I'm doing some laundry, and then what was that, baby? Oh, and the next thing I know, I'm like, damn, I didn't even get started on my top five yet. What's number one? I need to email Mike about his podcast. Cool, like, and when you start to do those things, and you start crossing those things off. But as far as my original music, man, it's um, I think number one, first and foremost, just don't settle. Like you have to have quality. Like if you want to go to that next level, go quality. I come from an era of albums, and I'll never leave that era. But it is not an era of albums, an era of singles. And one of the most important things that's happened within this last month is Spotify opened up their curators. You can now submit an unreleased single to Spotify's curators, which are those are the people that place music in their Spotify playlist that obviously get millions of listeners. So
Oh, okay.
it's a very huge thing. So, for me right now, when you talk about always, I have a plan. I'm heading in this direction. Oh, something comes up, and I feel like maybe I need to move in a different direction, and that's okay. And the direction that I feel I need to move in now is, I need to either write what I think is a new single or decide what song I've already written that hasn't been released as a new single, get that thing recorded and get that to Spotify and start doing that over and over again because I believe I have a great album, but the whole game is, how am I going to get that exposure? And if
Mm-hmm.
now Spotify's opened up this little door, I need to start submitting songs to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Start jumping on it and use that route as well, along with all the other routes that you're using. Jump on that route, right?
Yeah, I mean it's constant, but from everything that I've learned and seen, like uh, almost more than social media now is Spotify because they can see how many followers you have, they can see how many plays you have. Like you need people listening to your music. Like who gives a crap if they like the photo of your dog? Like as a musician, as an artist, as a songwriter, like I need you to love my music,
Yeah. 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 Um, I think that the important, I think, 10, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, celebrity status was the thing to have. Like to be a celebrity was the epitome or the pinnacle of success. But now you can. It's not just celebrity. You can having influence. I think is just as important, or maybe even more important. And that includes basically having fans, people that listen to you, people that want to know what your next move is, people that want to hear your next song. This kind of influence is super important for artists, because then you have a fan base basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I have I usually have like one or two like big focuses, like big things that I'm trying to head toward, and then there's the daily grind of emails and gigs and
Yeah.
corporate gigs and stuff like that. But it's also exciting. It's exciting to go chase the unknown, and just decide to move towards something without knowing how you're going to get there.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I agree, man. Um, so let's talk about your album. I got it here. Your latest album. It's called "What's That Got to Do with My Dreams." It's I'm very happy that I'm also on this album. So thanks for inviting me to play on your record too, man.
Heck yeah.
It's a great album. It has songs on here that I didn't have never heard you play before, so that was pretty cool. What what was your motivation for putting out your latest record, this record, and what has it helped you with as far as whether you got more gigs or did you get more attention? What does it help you with as a tool to build your career?
Um, well, again, you gotta have something to offer. So like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. For me personally, I had put out an EP before, had 6 songs on it, and it'd been a few years, and I love writing songs and I love playing them, and so I write a lot, and because I do, I just wanted to put out a collection of songs that um, showcased different gears that I go into and explore. Um, I feel really happy with what came out of it, and so then I believe in it too. And
Mm-hmm.
what's cool about all the different gears is, I was able to submit this track to an opportunity that was an acoustic singer-songwriter thing, and I was able to submit this track to a thing for you know uh, like more of like a high octane sports thing. And so it was cool to have such diversity in my music, to be able to explore a lot of different opportunities. And um, I got to work with some cool people who believed in the project as well,
Mm-hmm.
and together, the company's called Tinderbox, and together, they submitted my stuff, and I got on rotation over 100 radio stations across the United States. And
Mm.
now I've gotten to sync contract number 14. Some of those were pretty big ones with NASCAR and Keeping Up with the Kardashians and
Oh,
Bill
nice.
Nye Saves the World. And so it's like, I'm just, it's almost like the marathon. Like, I ran this marathon, months and months go by, and one day I'm jogging and I look at my legs and I'm like, 26 miles is insane. That's,
It is, man.
that's crazy. And
Woo.
and then I acknowledge that. And when the guy I was working with sent me over all these non-exclusive sync contracts, when he calls, I answer. And so I was setting up at a gig, so I'm not the best at multitasking, so I probably sound a little distracted. But also, I'm very much about what I need to do next, because all I do know for sure is I'm not where I want to be. And so he was like, "Yeah, man, that's 14 contracts now." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool, man." And he's like, "Do you know what that means?" And I was like, I, I don't know, what does it mean? And he's like, "I don't know, it's kind of a big deal, man. I mean, you got 14 sync contracts off your one album." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, that's cool." He's like, "Okay, dude," and then like it's like, maybe a month and a half goes by or something, and I'm like, "Oh man, dude, I got 14 sync contracts,
Yeah.
bro. Like, that's freaking cool."
Yeah, like it kind of hits you later. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Off of one album. That is a big deal, man. That's a big deal for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, with that, I've learned, and um, I've met some people in the industry from that conference that I went to in Houston, got invited to play and stuff, and I've run this by them. And so this is something that I didn't know, and now I know, and that's that shows, they place music anywhere from like 5 to 10 days into the episode. So whether it's a NASCAR clip, whether it's a Kardashians episode, whatever, the filming obviously, could be months and months before, but the actual song placement, the music placement, doesn't happen until a week or two before the actual airing date. And so
Mm.
what they do is they gather music and they say, yes, we dig these 6 songs off of Lee Perreira's album. We
Mm-hmm.
think they're awesome. We think that we totally could use them in this upcoming season, but there's no guarantee. So this fall, I could literally have signed 14 contracts and had absolutely not one song placed,
Mm-hmm.
or I could be, you might be sick of hearing my music.
Right. That's the kind of thing where they decide to use probably last minute, right? Like they go through all the music and then they're like, oh, let's use this here, it's here, and then probably one of the last things that they actually do on those episodes or any kind of placement is to pick the music and go, oh
Yeah.
yeah, cool. That's great, man. Do you think that, say, artists who don't have an album out and who are trying to get work, who are trying to, play the clubs or get gigs and get paid gigs, do you think that it's important for them to have their own album of music, or is it not as important?
If you're doing covers, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there are working musicians out here that are not artists,
Mm-hmm.
that are not, writing songs and attempting to, make a career that way, and that's totally fine. I mean, that's,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a thing. So if for me, it's like two different sides of the brain. I'm being paid for a service. I'm basically somebody's employee, and I'm trying to make the guests have a better time, and I'm having a good time myself, and I'm blessed for that. But you don't need to have an album or nothing like that. The only thing you need to do, I mean, you still need to have a social presence. Having a website is so easy nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on Wix and make your own, super fast and simple. Like just it's the same thing. Like cables on the ground to me. Have your emails include a hello, a name, and then a comma, and then some whatever you're writing about, and then a thank you and a comma, and maybe even save your signature in the email, just like you should have a website, and it should be clean, and you should have a couple of YouTube videos. You should think to yourself, what is it that this person's going to ask me for, and provide it to them before they ask for it.
Yeah.
I get gigs and more work than some people because I don't contact people and say, hey, when are you going to be doing September's availability? I say, hey, I don't know if you've done September's availability yet, but if you haven't yet, here's my availability. Save them a step. Don't make them work harder to give you work, you know?
Right. You basically set yourself up for better chances of them responding back to you, number one, and responding back to you with meaningful information. Like, oh, these are your dates that you're open? Well, we got a date here. You're right. Like, save them a step so they don't have to be inconvenienced with having to get in touch with you again.
Because, again, you're asking them for something. So the easiest that you can make somebody, and that goes for sales too, the easier that you can make it for them to just say yes. Hey, my name's Lee. I'm a professional musician. Here's a link to a YouTube video that, like if I'm contacting a bistro, I don't send them the Lee Perreira with the Rock Bottom Brothers video of us blasting through a Drake song,
Yeah.
I'll send them the solo clip of me playing an Elton John song,
Yeah.
You don't have to send people much. You just have to send them something. You have to send them something that represents, what they want.
Right. And I think it's easy for artists to miss that mark or to miss that sensitive point when they're trying to get gigs, is that they will send them, they will send that restaurant or bar the full band rocking out video, and they'll watch it and be like, this is not what we want here, just because they're on the video. That's such an easy step to mistake for artists who are just starting out. And to be honest,
and it's because I feel like it's because they feel like, well, this is what I have.
Right.
Well, then don't contact them until you have what you need.
Right.
It's just because you want that good first impression. You want, hey man, it's a fine line. I'm very much like, yes, say do it, yes, figure it out, just do it. But like, you do need to have some prep work, but you also don't want to be stuck prepping your whole life and never do nothing. Like just again, like that top 5 or something. Like identify, literally write down, what is it that I need to do to contact. Well, I need a solo YouTube video, I need a website, and whatever. So in the meantime, what can I do? Well, I'll contact somebody about doing a video, or I could put on a nice shirt and go to some cool spot and do the video myself. I'll start working on the website and Wix, and I could draft the email that I'll save in my drafts, and that way whenever I contact somebody, I'm not typing something all over again. I just copy and paste this draft that introduces myself, has a nice picture, has a nice website, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always something you can be doing. There's always something that you can be doing to achieve the things that you want. And the way you just explained it is the way I look at it too. I want to put up this video or something. Okay, well, what's the first step to getting to that? Okay, well, do I have a camera? No. Okay, well, let's go get a camera, or I should just use my phone. It's like it's this thing where there's always something that you can be doing every day.
Yep.
And I think that's something really, really important that, again, a lot of artists will get caught up on. Well, all I do is write songs, and everything else should happen for me because of that. It's like, no, you should be working on all these other things that are supplement your music to build it all, and there's so many things that you can do every day. The list goes on and on. Website, social media, video, email, like you said. I mean, and I think a lot of that can get overlooked because artists can be like, well, I just write music and everything else will take care of itself,
Yeah, I mean,
So,
believe me, like I can't wait, bro. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
have Susie on the social media and John on the email, and you know what I mean? Where's Lee? Oh, he's practicing scales. And he's so happy.
I want that to happen for me too. One day we'll be able to delegate these things to other people, man.
Oh my God, you know what I mean? Like it's funny, man. Back in the day, if you would even ask me if I wanted a roadie, no, man, don't touch my stuff. Now I'm 36, gonna be 37.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the guitar, and you can wind up all those cables.
I'm gonna go to the bar, have a little drink while that's going on, and then grab my guitar and my microphone, and I'm out.
Yeah, man, I got my computer bag and my guitar.
Oh man, one of these days, brother. One of these days.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
So I try to keep these podcasts within an hour, and we're creeping up on that, believe it or not. But let me just ask you one more question here.
Yeah.
Well, two questions. First of all, I'd love to do this again with you sometime, man. I know that you just have so much information to share with other singer-songwriters out there. So hopefully we can do a podcast again.
I would love to do one and flip the script, because I bet your listeners would love to know what I would love to know, which is, what are the strategic things that you do to keep yourself organized? I feel like a strength that you have is I feel like, and I don't know because I'm not inside, but using these planners and maybe whatever your top 5 technique is or whatever. Like I would love to learn from you.
Thanks, man.
So,
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely try that sometime and talk about getting out of your comfort zone. But to finish up, like, what advice? I mean, you've given a lot of good advice on this podcast, man, and I really appreciate that. What would you say in closing to, all the young cats out there who are talented, singer-songwriters out there, and there's a lot of them, but they just don't know where to start, don't know how to get going in music. What advice do you have for these younger guys out there who are trying to do what you're doing?
Well, if you're looking to supplement income and play some cover gigs, very simply, I think the most important thing for your soul and for my soul is you don't have to play Journey, Don't Stop Believing. You need about 10 songs an hour. Most gigs are 3 to 4 hours, so you can do the math. That's about 30 to 40 songs to get started. And I kind of do this thing. I do a 1-for-1 now. I used to do a 2-for-1 before I was established. People know that I'm talented and I'm professional. I do 2 songs for the people and 1 song for me. And what that means is, I play 2 recognizable popular cover songs, and then I play 1 for me, whether that's an original song, whether that's a cover song that maybe is more obscure, maybe it's another popular song, but maybe it's just one that I really love. But I make sure that I'm at least giving the people 2 that they recognize and can connect to. And I find that to be really important. And when you're picking your 30 to 40 songs, to get started, I just redid my list, and I'm up to about 300 now.
Ooh, boy.
But there's so much popular music I bet you it won't be hard pressed for any of you to find 30 songs that you actually like that are actually really, really popular. That, maybe they weren't the Michael Jackson Thriller of the #1 hit, but it was a song that was on the radio. It was a song, as soon as you start singing, somebody goes, "Oh man, I remember that song. I like that
Mm,
song." And once you realize that, all of a sudden, like, it opens up to you. I mean, I never thought I'd be covering Drake,
yeah,
when I first started, doing this stuff.
yeah,
But once you realize that they're all chord changes and melodies, and you find the fun and enjoyment in just playing the music, then that's it. And so, besides just getting the song list up, um, just put yourself out there.
hmm,
What elevated me was I found out what venues had live music, and obviously I wasn't gigging every night of the week because I was looking for gigs,
yeah,
and I'd watch whoever was performing. I'd enjoy that and learn from it. I would shake their hand and introduce myself to the musician, and see what happened with the staff. I would never just kind of force myself in. There are places that I hung out, maybe 3, 4, 5 times before I actually said, "Hey, man, I'm a musician," because I wanted these people to think that I was there and I was having a good time and I was a part of the community. I wasn't just, "Hey, man, like, I'm looking for a gig. Here's my card. Cool, bye." Like,
right,
connect with me as a person. That's it's those relationships that now Joe doesn't work at, Joe's pub no more, and he's over at John's pub. He,
mm,
he remembers, "Hey, man, Mike was cool. Was a cool guy, man. Hey, we're doing music over here now, Mike." And now you're still playing at Joe's because you had a good reputation there, but that manager left and he's over here, and
hmm,
now it turns into 2 gigs. So it's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
don't hit on the staff, don't get wasted. Show up early, set up, break down. Go take your check and go have a beverage somewhere else. All
Yeah,
that stuff uh, is just so important to continued success. You never know, where somebody's going to be. Maybe that server that you thought was fine and hooked up with is now a freaking manager place, and she don't like you, and now she's not going to book you there.
yeah,
And you know what I mean? Like, I make, around $200 plus or minus these like little regular gigs, and
hmm,
if you think of it, like, I play every Thursday at a place for $200. That's $800 a month.
that's
Man,
nice, man.
is that server worth $800 a month? Now,
Oh,
I'm not being rude. I'm
y-
just saying maybe she is, but I'm
yeah.
not gonna find that out.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, man. I mean, this is if this is what you want to do for a living, or you want to make side income, or you want to make a go at this, you have to do those things. You got to keep it tight. You got to keep it pro, and like you said, it could lead to more things. And always try to think one step ahead, right? Think one or two steps ahead of everything, so you're not always just in the moment, just always planning for your next move or what could
you,
possibly happen.
you just don't want to ever burn a bridge. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mm,
just always smile. There's gonna be people that yeah, I'm super blessed now. That probably 95% of the people that I get to work with, I really enjoy. I think they're cool people. I think they're nice. I think they're great to work with. I think they're educated, whatever the case may be. But like, when I was starting out, freaking any gig I could get. And that
yeah.
maybe that meant at this particular place, leave something to be desired for one reason or another. But that doesn't change my approach. It doesn't change my smile. It doesn't change the way that I act and dress.
Hmm.
It's in this life, unless you really get to a high level of success, you have to learn how to work well with people that you don't want to work with.
Right. Right. Yep.
And that's important too.
Yep. Oh man. Uh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna seriously, dude. We could keep talking all afternoon, man. But I'm gonna have to end it here. And like I said, I would love to do this with you again. So I appreciate you being on the podcast. Just a wealth of knowledge and such good positive vibes, man. I really appreciate that. Hang on the line here real quickly. I'm gonna sign off with my listeners here. Uh, you guys, thanks for checking out this podcast. Again, please go to Lee's website, leeperreira.com. I'm going to put the link in the blog here on the podcast. Please go find out about him. Even if you don't live in Phoenix, he has a lot. You can follow what he does, watch what he does. If you want to do music full time, even as a side gig, Lee is a amazing blueprint for that kind of thing. So learn more about him. Check out his music. He's a great guy. And Lee, thank you again, brother.
No, thank you, Mike, man. I appreciate the journey that we've started together. So
yeah, definitely. All right, guys, I will catch you on the next podcast. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace and love. So never soon enough for me.